chosen one. What if I told you that October 9 isn't just another Thursday on your calendar? What if I told you it's the last alarm heaven will sound before your destiny door slams shut forever? What if, and listen carefully, ignoring this date won't just cost you a blessing, it will make you complicit in the murder of your own future? Stop, right where you are. Stop scrolling. Stop doubting. Stop pretending you stumbled here by accident. You didn't find this message. This message hunted you down. Let me paint you a picture that's going to shatter every comfortable lie you've been telling yourself. Imagine standing at the gates of your promised land, the land you've prayed for, wept for, bled for, and carved into those gates in letters of living fire is one date, October 9. But here's the part that should terrify you. You have the key in your hand, but you're walking away, not because the door is locked, because you didn't believe the date mattered. That's not missing an opportunity, beloved. That's betrayal. Betrayal of the prayers your grandmother whispered over you. Betrayal of the destiny God stamped on your soul before you drew your first breath. Betrayal of every tear you've cried wondering, when, God? When is it my turn? I'm talking to you, yes. You sitting there at 72, 78, 85 years old, feeling like time is a thief that's stolen everything. You've buried dreams in caskets alongside friends. You've watched decades dissolve like sugar in rain. You've whispered prayers into empty rooms until your voice gave out and heaven seemed deaf. But October 9 is not another day to survive. October 9 is your day. The day when every unanswered prayer, every stolen blessing, every delayed promise comes crashing into your reality with the force of divine vengeance. Before we go one step deeper into this mystery, I need you to do something right now. I need you to type in the comments, don't think, just type, I refuse to miss October 9. This isn't just engagement, this is spiritual warfare. You are planting a flag in enemy territory and declaring, my destiny is not negotiable. And listen, before I go further, I want to pause and thank every single one of you who has supported this message through super thanks. Your generosity means more than you know. You're not just donating, you're helping spread light to others who feel alone in their calling. Whether you give or not, I'm deeply grateful for your presence here. Your support, your time, your attention, it all matters. And if this message resonates with your soul, go ahead and let the Holy Spirit lead your heart. Now hear me clearly. By the time we finish this journey together, you will understand why missing October 9 wouldn't just rewrite your story, it would rewrite it in tragedy. You'll see what heaven has been hiding in the shadows of this date. And you'll discover why the enemy has been working overtime to distract you, to numb you, to convince you that dates don't matter, and destiny is just a pretty word for dreamers. October 9 is loaded, and you're about to find out why. Let me ask you something that's going to cut straight to the bone. Have you ever felt like you were born too late? Like the miracle train left the station before you could climb aboard? Have you ever looked at your life and wondered if God's calendar somehow skipped over your name? Here's what's going to shake you to your core tonight. God doesn't operate on your calendar. He doesn't check his watch against the clock hanging in your kitchen. Heaven has its own calendar, beloved. And October 9 isn't just a square on the page you bought at Walgreens. October 9 is thunder written in eternity. You see, there are two calendars operating simultaneously in your life right now. There's the calendar of man, 12 months, 30 days, tick-tock, time marching forward like soldiers to a grave. That's the calendar that's been lying to you, whispering that you're running out of time, that your season passed decades ago, that the best you can do now is sit quietly and wait for heaven to call you home. But then there's the calendar of heaven, and on heaven's calendar, October 9 isn't ink on paper, it's fire. It's the appointed hour when eternity crashes into your timeline with the force of a freight train. It's the moment when everything delayed suddenly accelerates, when everything denied suddenly opens, when everything you thought was dead suddenly breathes. Let me take you back 3,000 years to a beach you've heard about since Sunday school, the Red Sea. But I want you to see it differently tonight. I want you to feel what Moses felt standing there with 2 million terrified people behind him and the most powerful army on earth charging toward them with murder in their eyes. Exodus 14 tells us the story, but here's what they don't preach from the pulpit. The timing had to be exact, not approximate, not close enough, exact. If Moses had lifted that staff one day too early, the waters wouldn't have parted. The miracle wasn't ready. The moment hadn't arrived, and 2 million people would have drowned in their impatience. But if Moses had waited one day too late, if he'd hesitated, second-guessed, let fear convince him to delay, Pharaoh's army would have slaughtered every man, woman, and child. The entire nation would have been erased from history before they ever reached their promise. Too early drowning, too late slaughter. But at the exact appointed time, Exodus 14:21 says, "Then Moses stretched out his hand over the sea, and all that night the Lord drove the sea back with a strong east wind and turned it into dry land. The waters were divided." Do you hear what I'm telling you? Divine timing doesn't negotiate. It doesn't bend. It doesn't wait for you to feel ready. It arrives at its appointed hour, and you either step into it or you watch it pass by. October 9 is your Red Sea moment. This isn't poetry. This isn't metaphor. This is prophetic alignment. Everything in your life, every closed door, every delayed answer, every year you spent feeling forgotten, it was all positioning you for this exact date. Not October 8, not October 10, October 9. I can feel some of you resisting this right now. You're thinking, how can one date matter so much? How can 24 hours determine my destiny? But that's the calendar of man talking. That's the voice that's been lying to you for 70, 80, 90 years. Here's what the calendar of heaven says. In Genesis 1, God didn't create time randomly. He established appointed times, divine moments, sacred hours. Genesis 1:14 declares, "Let there be lights in the vault of the sky to separate the day from the night, and let them serve as signs to mark sacred times and days and years." Sacred times. Not all time is equal, beloved. Some moments carry more weight than others. Some days are drenched in destiny, while others are just ordinary. And October 9? It's not ordinary. It never was. Think about your own life for a moment. Haven't there been days that changed everything? The day you met your spouse, the day you lost them, the day the doctor called with results, the day you held your firstborn. Some days aren't just days, they're doorways. October 9 is a doorway, and it's been waiting for you since before you were born. But here's where it gets urgent. Here's where the mercy in my voice has to give way to the alarm. Doorways don't stay open forever. Red seas don't part twice. Divine moments arrive, and if you're not paying attention, if you're too distracted by the calendar of man, if you're too convinced that nothing special could happen to someone your age, you'll miss it. And missing it doesn't just mean disappointment. It means betrayal. Betrayal of every prayer God answered with "not yet," because he was saving it for October 9. Betrayal of every door he closed, because that path would have led you away from this moment. Betrayal of every year he preserved you through, keeping you alive, keeping you breathing, keeping you here for this exact appointed time. You've been delayed, yes, but you've also been preserved. And there's a massive difference between those two words. Delayed means held back. Preserved means protected. You weren't forgotten during those silent years. You were being hidden, guarded, kept safe until the calendar of heaven aligned with the calendar of earth and produced October 9. If you can feel this truth resonating in your spirit right now, if something ancient inside you is waking up and whispering yes, then type it in the comments. I believe the timing is mine. Don't just think it, seal it, declare it. Let heaven hear you claim what's been held in trust for you, because what I'm about to show you next will explain exactly what heaven has been protecting you from and what it's been preparing you for. You're about to discover why the enemy has been working overtime to keep you distracted from this date, why he's been whispering that dates don't matter and destiny is just a word for dreamers. October 9 isn't coming to play games with your hope. October 9 is coming to deliver what's been promised. But you have to be ready to recognize it when it arrives. Are you, chosen one? Let me ask you something that's going to cut deep. How many nights have you laid in that bed? The one that's too big now, the one where your spouse used to sleep and whispered into the darkness, "Maybe I missed it, Lord. Maybe my time already came and went, and I was too blind to see it." That question has haunted you, hasn't it? It sits in your chest like a stone. It wakes you up at 3 a.m. when the house is so quiet you can hear your own heartbeat counting down the days you have left. You've lived long enough to know what regret tastes like. You've buried enough dreams to fill a graveyard. You've watched enough years dissolve into nothing to know that time doesn't wait for anyone. But here's what's going to shake you to your core tonight. Betrayal isn't what you think it is. Betrayal isn't when the world turns its back on you. Betrayal isn't when your children forget to call, when your friends disappear, when your body fails you. No, beloved. Real betrayal, the kind that damns your destiny, is when you turn your back on your own appointed hour. Think about Judas for a moment. Not the Sunday school version, the real Judas. The man who walked with Jesus for 3 years, who heard the Sermon on the Mount with his own ears, who watched the blind see and the lame walk, who broke bread at the same table as the Son of God. And then, in the Garden of Gethsemane, he betrayed him. But here's what most people miss. It wasn't with a sword. It wasn't with shouting or violence. It was with a kiss. A kiss. The symbol of love twisted into the weapon of betrayal. That's what happens when you ignore October 9. You're not just missing a date on the calendar. You're kissing your destiny goodbye. You're embracing it just long enough to hand it over to the enemy. You're saying, "I see you, promise of God, but I choose not to believe you're real." Do you understand what that means? Every prayer your grandmother prayed over you gone. Every tear your spouse wept, asking God to bless you, wasted. Every promise heaven has been storing up with your name on it, forfeited. Not because God changed his mind, because you didn't show up to claim what was yours. And before you think I'm being dramatic, let me take you to Scripture. Esther 4:14. Mordecai looked at Esther and said something that should terrify every believer who thinks timing doesn't matter. If you remain silent at this time, relief and deliverance will arise from another place, but you and your father's family will perish. And who knows but that you have come to your royal position for such a time as this. For such a time as this. Not for such a season, not for such a year, for such a time. A specific moment, a specific date. An appointed hour when everything you were created for converges into a single point of destiny. Esther had hers. Moses had his at the burning bush. David had his when Samuel poured oil over his head. And you, chosen one, have October 9. But here's what breaks my heart. Esther almost missed it. She almost stayed silent. She almost let fear convince her that her moment didn't matter. And if she had, the Bible tells us plainly, she and her father's house would have perished. Not just missed a blessing, perished, destroyed, erased from the story God was writing. That's the weight of betrayal you're carrying right now if you're planning to treat October 9 like it's just another Thursday. You think you're being cautious, being realistic, protecting yourself from disappointment. But what you're really doing is signing the death certificate for every promise God ever whispered over your life. Let me get even more specific. How many times have you looked in the mirror and seen a stranger? How many times have you wondered what happened to that person? You used to be the one who believed God, who dreamed big, who carried fire in their bones. You didn't lose that person in a single moment. You lost them in 1,000 small betrayals. 1,000 times you chose safety over faith. 1,000 times you chose doubt over destiny. 1,000 times you looked at your appointed hour and walked away because it seemed too good to be true. And now here you are, 75 years old, 80 years old, 87 years old, staring at October 9 and feeling that same familiar pull to ignore it, to protect yourself, to not get your hopes up again. But what if this is your Esther moment? What if October 9 is the hinge upon which your entire legacy swings? What if ignoring it doesn't just affect you, but ripples down through your children, your grandchildren, your great-grandchildren? What if the blessing God is releasing on October 9 was meant to break generational curses, to restore stolen inheritance, to rewrite your family's story? The enemy knows this. That's why he's been working overtime to keep you distracted, numb, hopeless. That's why your body has been hurting more than usual. That's why the loneliness has been crushing. That's why the doubt has been screaming louder than ever. He's not attacking you because you're weak. He's attacking you because October 9 terrifies him. He knows what happens when you finally show up to your appointed hour. He knows what breaks loose when you stop betraying your own destiny. Jesus said in Matthew 26-24, "Woe to that man who betrays the Son of Man. It would be better for him if he had not been born." Strong words, terrifying words. And while he was speaking about Judas, there's a principle buried in that verse that should make us all tremble. There is a weight to betrayal that goes beyond the moment. There is a consequence to turning your back on what God has ordained that echoes into eternity. I'm not trying to scare you, chosen one. I'm trying to wake you up, because the same God who warned Esther through Mordecai is warning you right now through this message. You have an appointed time. You have a destiny moment. And October 9 is it. But here's where hope breaks through like dawn after the longest night. If you honor it, if you show up with expectation, with faith, with your whole heart, you're going to discover something that will justify every year you waited, every tear you cried, every night you wondered if God forgot your name. You're going to understand why the enemy tried so hard to bury you. Because what's being released on October 9 isn't just for you, it's through you. And when God releases something through a willing vessel, kingdoms shake, chains break, and destinies awaken. So what's it going to be? Are you going to kiss your destiny goodbye, or are you going to step into the moment heaven has been preparing since before you were born? Beloved, let me ask you something that's going to cut straight to the bone. How many years have you spent wondering if God forgot to write your name in his book? How many mornings have you woken up feeling like you've been buried alive under the weight of unfulfilled promises? You look around and see people half your age walking into their destiny while you're still waiting for yours to knock on the door. They're building empires. You're counting pills. They're climbing mountains. You're just trying to climb out of bed without your knees screaming in protest. And somewhere deep in the 3 a.m. silence of your soul, you've whispered the question you're terrified to say out loud. Did I miss it? Did my time run out while I was looking the other way? Listen to me carefully, chosen one. What if I told you that you weren't buried at all? What if every year you thought was wasted was actually a year of divine incubation? What if the feeling of being overlooked was actually God's hand covering you, protecting you, preparing you for something so massive that releasing it too early would have destroyed you? You thought you were buried, but you were planted. There's a difference that will change everything about how you see your story. When something is buried, it's meant to stay hidden, to decay, to be forgotten. But when something is planted, beloved, it's placed in darkness on purpose. It's covered intentionally. It's hidden strategically. Not to kill it, but to grow it. The seed doesn't know it's being prepared for harvest. It only feels the weight of the soil pressing down. It only knows the darkness. It only experiences the waiting. That's been you, pressed down by circumstances you didn't choose, covered by seasons you didn't understand, hidden in a darkness that felt like abandonment. But heaven was watching the whole time, saying, "Not yet. The soil isn't ready. The season isn't right. The roots need to go deeper." Look at Moses. The man was 80 years old when God called him from that burning bush. 80. In today's terms, that's not just retirement age, that's great-grandparent territory. The world would have given him a gold watch and a rocking chair. Society would have said, "Your time has passed, old man. Let the young ones handle it." But God? God looked at those 80 years and saw something the world couldn't see. He saw 40 years in Pharaoh's palace, where Moses learned how power operates. He saw 40 years in the wilderness, where Moses learned how to survive with nothing. He saw a man who'd been broken of pride, stripped of self-reliance, humbled by failure, and God said, Now he's ready to deliver a nation." Moses wasn't too old. He was perfectly aged, like fine wine that needed decades to reach its full strength, like timber that needed years to become unbreakable, like gold that needed fire to become pure. And what about Anna, 84 years old, widowed after just 7 years of marriage? She spent the next 77 years in the temple praying, fasting, waiting, believing for something she couldn't see. 77 years, that's not a season of waiting, beloved. That's a lifetime. Her friends died. Her generation passed. The world moved on. And she stayed there, day after day, night after night, holding on to a promise that seemed more like a fantasy with each passing year. But then one ordinary morning, a young couple walked through those temple doors carrying a baby, and Anna, sweet, ancient, overlooked, Anna was the first one to recognize him. Not the priests with their theological degrees, not the scholars with their scrolls, not the important people with their influence. The 84-year-old widow who everyone thought was crazy for still showing up, still praying, still believing. She wasn't too late. She was precisely on time for the most important moment in human history. Do you understand what I'm telling you? Your age is not your disqualification. Your years are not your expiration date. Every wrinkle on your face is a line of wisdom that couldn't have been drawn any other way. Every grey hair is a crown earned through battles that younger people can't even imagine fighting. But here's where it gets personal. Here's where this stops being ancient history and becomes your story. Think about Job. That man lost everything. His children dead, his wealth gone, his health destroyed. His wife told him to curse God and die. His friends showed up to accuse him instead of comfort him. And for chapters upon chapters, Job sat in ashes, scraping his sores with broken pottery, wondering why a good God would allow such devastating pain. The silence from heaven was deafening. The answers didn't come. The relief didn't arrive. Job endured what felt like the cruelest abandonment imaginable. And yet, and hear this, beloved, Job's story didn't end in the ashes. It ended in double restoration. Everything he lost came back multiplied. His latter days were greater than his beginning. His testimony became eternal. But here's what most people miss. Job couldn't have carried the restoration before he endured the refinement. The blessing would have crushed him. The abundance would have corrupted him. The testimony wouldn't have had weight. God wasn't punishing Job. God was preparing Job for a level of favor that required a foundation only suffering could build. That's you. Every financial struggle taught you that provision doesn't come from your bank account, it comes from heaven's supply. Every health scare taught you that life is a gift, not a guarantee. Every betrayal taught you that your trust belongs in God alone. Every closed door taught you to stop forcing things and start following divine direction. You weren't too late, chosen one. You were preserved for such a time as October 9. God wasn't ignoring your prayers. He was storing them in golden bowls before his throne. He wasn't forgetting your tears. He was collecting them in bottles, keeping record of every drop. He wasn't overlooking your faithfulness. He was building a foundation strong enough to hold what he's about to release. The enemy wanted you to believe you were forgotten. That's his favorite lie for people your age. You're too old. Your time has passed. God's moved on to the younger generation. But that's not the voice of heaven. That's the voice of hell, terrified of what happens when a seasoned warrior finally steps into their full authority. Because here's what younger people don't have. You've got decades of proof that God is faithful. You've survived things that should have killed you. You've overcome obstacles that would have destroyed others. You've learned to worship in the waiting room, to praise in the valley, to trust when you can't see. That's not weakness, beloved. That's weaponry. And October 9 is the day heaven hands you the ammunition. If this word is reading your life like an open book, if you feel the weight of recognition in your chest right now, I need you to say it out loud. Don't just think it. Speak it into the atmosphere. Say it with me. I was hidden, not forgotten. Say it again. Louder this time. I was hidden, not forgotten. Because what's about to happen on October 9 will prove that every year of waiting was worth it. Every season of silence was strategic. Every moment of hiddenness was preparation for your unveiling. But here's the question that should be burning in your spirit right now. If you were hidden on purpose, then what exactly is October 9 unveiling? Listen to me carefully, chosen one. For decades, maybe your entire adult life, you've been staring at a curtain, a thick, heavy curtain that separates you from everything God promised. You've heard whispers behind it. You've sensed movement. You've even caught glimpses of light bleeding through the edges. But the curtain stayed closed until October 9. On that day, the curtain doesn't just open, it gets ripped down, torn from the ceiling. And what's been hidden behind it, every delayed blessing, every stolen promise, every prayer you thought God ignored it all, comes flooding into your reality at once. You want to know what that looks like? Let me show you. Think about a dam. For years, water has been building up behind concrete walls. The pressure mounts, the weight increases. To anyone watching from the outside, it looks like nothing's happening. Just water sitting still, stagnant, dead. But behind that wall, chosen one, there's a reservoir so massive, so powerful, that when it breaks, and it will break, it doesn't trickle. It doesn't drip. It explodes with the force of 1,000 freight trains. That's October 9. Your breakthrough isn't coming like a gentle rain. It's coming like Niagara Falls crashing through your living room. And I need you to understand something that's going to shake you. This isn't metaphor. This is prophecy. The Bible tells us in Malachi 3:10, "Bring the whole tithe into the storehouse, that there may be food in my house. Test me in this, and see if I will not throw open the floodgates of heaven and pour out so much blessing that there will not be room enough to store it." Did you catch that word? Floodgates, not drip gates, not trickle gates. Flood gates. God doesn't do anything small when he finally moves. And October 9 is the day he throws those gates wide open over your life. But here's what's going to destroy you if you're not paying attention. This flood has been building for years. Every tear you cried added water to the reservoir. Every unanswered prayer increased the pressure. Every disappointment, every closed door, every moment you wanted to give up, it was all accumulating behind that dam. And now it's ready to break. Can you feel it? That rumbling in your spirit? That sense that something massive is about to shift? That's not your imagination, beloved. That's the sound of the dam cracking. Now let me take you somewhere even deeper. Imagine you've been living in darkness for so long that you forgot what sunlight feels like. You've been stumbling through shadows, tripping over obstacles you can't see, wondering if morning will ever come. The night has been so long that you started believing it was permanent. That darkness was your destiny. But Psalm 30:5 declares, "Weeping may stay for the night, but rejoicing comes in the morning." Not might come, not could come, comes, guaranteed, certain, inevitable. October 9 is your sunrise. I'm not talking about a little glimmer of hope peeking over the horizon. I'm talking about the sun exploding into the sky with such brilliance that every shadow in your life evaporates instantly. The things that haunted you in darkness can't survive in this light. The fears that controlled you at midnight have no power at noon. And here's what makes this sunrise different from every other hopeful moment you've experienced. This one can't be reversed. Once October 9 dawns, you don't go back to night. Isaiah 60:1 says, "Arise, shine, for your light has come, and the glory of the Lord rises upon you." When God's glory rises, beloved, it doesn't set. This isn't temporary. This is permanent transformation. But now we come to the part that's going to leave you breathless. We come to the explosion. For 70, 80, maybe 90 years, you've been planting seeds, seeds of prayer, seeds of faith, seeds of obedience, when obedience made no sense. You planted them in tear-soaked soil during seasons when nothing grew. You planted them when your hands were shaking and your heart was breaking. You planted them when everyone told you it was pointless. And on October 9, every single seed you ever planted detonates simultaneously, not grows. Detonatus. This is what Galatians 6-9 means when it says, "Let us not become weary in doing good, for at the proper time we will reap a harvest if we do not give up." The proper time, not your time. Not when you thought it made sense. The proper time. And October 9 is that time. Doors that have been locked for decades don't just unlock, they swing wide open before you even touch them. Enemies who've mocked you for years don't just stop talking, they bow in stunned silence as they watch God vindicate you publicly. Hidden prayers, the ones you prayed at 3 a.m. when you thought no one was listening, they don't just get answered. They explode into your reality with such force that you'll fall to your knees weeping. This is your finally. Finally, the delay makes sense. Finally, the pain has purpose. Finally, the waiting wasn't wasted. Finally, God shows you why He made you endure what would have killed weaker people. Finally, your story stops being about survival and becomes about victory. Do you understand what I'm telling you? October 9 isn't just another day on your calendar. It's the day your entire life pivots from what if to what is. From maybe someday to this is it. From I hope to I hold. But here's the part that should make your spirit tremble. This moment requires your participation. The dam won't break if you're not standing in position to receive the flood. The sunrise won't transform you if you're hiding in the basement refusing to look up. The explosion of answered prayers won't impact your life if you're too afraid to believe it's real. If you're ready, if you're truly ready for everything you've been waiting for to crash into your life all at once, then I need you to seal this moment right now. Type in the comments, "The dam is breaking." Don't just think it, don't just hope it, declare it. Because when you speak it, you position yourself under the floodgates, you step into the sunrise, you ignite the explosion. October 9 is coming, whether you believe it or not. But the question that will determine everything, the question that separates those who receive from those who regret, is this: will you be ready when it arrives? Listen to me carefully, chosen one. What I'm about to tell you will either wake you up or confirm you've already chosen to sleep through your destiny. October 9 is not a suggestion. It's not a nice idea. It's not something you can pencil in and forget. October 9 is a divine ultimatum, and heaven doesn't bluff. Ignore this date, and I'm telling you right now with the authority of Scripture and the weight of prophetic truth. You will wander another wilderness year, not because God is cruel, but because you refused to step through the door when it swung open. The children of Israel had one chance to enter Canaan. One moment when the spies returned and God said, "Go in now." But fear whispered louder than faith. And what should have been an 11-day journey became 40 years of circling the same mountain, burying the same dreams, repeating the same cycles. Numbers 14:34 records it with brutal clarity. For 40 years, 1 year for each of the 40 days you explored the land, you will suffer for your sins and know what it is like to have me against you. One missed moment, 40 years of consequence. You think that's ancient history? Look at your own life. How many years have you been circling? How many decades have you been praying the same prayer, fighting the same battle, waiting for the same breakthrough? The same financial struggle that crushed your father is crushing you. The same depression that swallowed your mother is swallowing you. The same broken relationships, the same midnight tears, the same exhausting repetition. That's not coincidence. That's consequence. The consequence of ignoring appointed times. But here's what will wreck you if you let it sink in. October 9 is your exit ramp off that endless circle. Miss it and the wheel keeps spinning. Another year, another cycle. Another graveyard of buried hopes. Do you understand what I'm saying? This isn't motivation. This is mathematics. Divine mathematics. And the equation is simple. Ignore October 9 equals repeat the pattern. Honor October 9 equals break the cycle. Now let me tell you what happens when you honor it. When you step into October 9 with intentionality, with reverence, with the full weight of your faith leaning into that moment, everything you've carried in silence will roar like a lion. Every gift you've hidden, every calling you've buried, every dream you've locked away because the world told you it was too late, too foolish, too impossible, it erupts. This is not gentle. This is violent. This is Judges 14:6 violent. When the Spirit of the Lord came powerfully upon Samson, and he tore the lion apart with his bare hands. What you thought was dead inside you isn't dead. It's been dormant, waiting. And October 9 is the trigger that releases the roar. Your children's chains will break. Not someday, not eventually. On October 9, generational bondage snaps. That addiction your son carries, broken. That spiritual blindness your daughter walks in, shattered. That financial curse that's haunted 3 generations, demolished. Exodus 20:5 says sin visits the 3rd and 4th generation, but Exodus 34:7 declares God shows mercy to thousands of generations. October 9 tips the scale from curse to blessing, from bondage to breakthrough. Your finances will be restored. And I don't mean a little extra cash. I mean the wealth of the wicked laid up for the righteous flooding into your hands. Proverbs 13:22. Jobs you thought were gone will reopen. Investments you thought were lost will multiply. Doors you stopped knocking on will swing wide open and beg you to enter. Because October 9 doesn't trickle, it floods. Your name will echo in heaven's hall. The angels who've been watching you limp through life, barely surviving, will finally see you run. Hebrews 12:1 talks about that great cloud of witnesses, your grandmother who prayed for you, your grandfather who believed God had more for this family, every ancestor who died without seeing the promise. On October 9, they're going to witness the fulfillment. Your obedience becomes their vindication. But here's the part that should split you open with holy urgency. October 9 doesn't just change you, it rewrites your bloodline. This is generational, beloved. This is bigger than your personal breakthrough. When you step into October 9, you're not just altering your timeline, you're rewriting your children's inheritance, your grandchildren's destiny, your great-grandchildren's foundation. You become the pivot point, the hinge of history. The one who said, the brokenness stops here, the poverty stops here, the fear stops here. Think about Abraham. Genesis 12. God said, leave your country, your people, your father's household. Abraham obeyed. And because he honored that appointed moment, every person of faith for the next 4,000 years calls him Father. One man, one moment. Eternal impact. You are that man. You are that woman. October 9 is your Genesis 12 moment. So let me ask you a question that should haunt you if you walk away from this. What will you tell your grandchildren when they ask why the blessing stopped with you? What will you say when they're fighting the same demons you refused to bury? How will you explain that you had the key, you had the date, you had the promise, but you chose comfort over courage? Because here's the truth that's going to either break you open or wake you up. October 9 is not coming back. This isn't annual. This isn't a subscription you can renew. This is once, one moment, one choice. And the clock is ticking. Listen to me carefully, chosen one, because what I'm about to tell you might explain every strange thing that's been happening to you in the last few weeks. You've felt it, haven't you? That heaviness, that fog that settles over your mind right when you're trying to pray. That exhaustion that has no medical explanation, the kind where you wake up more tired than when you went to bed. Your doctor runs the tests and finds nothing, but you know something is wrong. Your body aches in places that never hurt before. Your thoughts scatter like leaves in wind. You sit down to read your Bible, and suddenly you can't focus, can't remember, can't connect. This isn't age, beloved. This is warfare. See, the enemy knows something about October 9 that most people don't understand yet. He knows it's not just another date on the calendar. He knows it's a portal, a threshold, a moment when heaven has scheduled your breakthrough with such precision that hell itself is mobilizing to stop you from reaching it. Think about it. Why now? Why, after all these years of relative quiet, is everything suddenly falling apart? Why is your daughter not returning your calls? Why did that check you were expecting get delayed? Why is your blood pressure suddenly spiking? Why can't you sleep through the night anymore? Because the devil isn't fighting your yesterday. He's terrified of your tomorrow. Let me take you to the wilderness. Not the first wilderness, the one where God tested you, shaped you, refined you. I'm talking about the second wilderness. The one right before the promised land. The one Moses and the Israelites faced when they could literally see Canaan across the Jordan River. Deuteronomy 1-2 tells us something shocking. It is 11 days' journey from Horeb by way of Mount Seir to Kadesh Barnea. 11 days. That's all it should have taken. But they wandered for 40 years. Why? Because at the edge of promise they listened to fear instead of faith. They looked at giants instead of God. They chose doubt at the doorstep of destiny. And here's what breaks my heart: you're standing at that same edge right now. October 9 is your Jordan River. You can see it. You can almost touch it. But the enemy is doing everything in his power to convince you to turn back, to give up, to believe it's too late, too hard, too impossible. He's whispering in your ear right now, isn't he? You're too old for this. You're too tired. You've been disappointed too many times. Why would this time be any different? But let me tell you what he's really saying, what he's really afraid of. He's saying, if you cross over on October 9, if you step into what God has prepared for you, my entire strategy collapses. Everything I've built to keep you bound, broken, it all falls apart. Think about the Israelites at the Red Sea. Exodus 14 tells us they were trapped mountains on both sides, Pharaoh's army behind them, impossible waters in front of them. And right there, at the point of greatest impossibility, is when some of them started complaining. Did you bring us out here to die? Weren't there enough graves in Egypt? They were 3 days away from drowning Pharaoh's army. 3 days from the greatest miracle of deliverance in human history. But they couldn't see it. All they could see was the impossibility of now. That's where you are. You're days away from your Red Sea moment, and the enemy is flooding your mind with impossibility. The medical report, the bank statement, the silent phone that never rings with your children's voices, the mirror that reflects back every year you think you've wasted. But here's what you need to understand about the second wilderness. It's not random, it's strategic. Satan's last card before you cross over is always the same: convince you to sleep through the dawn. Think about Gethsemane. Jesus asked his disciples to do one thing: stay awake and pray with him for 1 hour. 1 hour, that's all. But what happened? Matthew 26-40 says, he came to the disciples and found them sleeping. Not once, 3 times. They couldn't stay awake at the most critical moment in human history. And Jesus said something that should shake us to our core. The spirit indeed is willing, but the flesh is weak. Your spirit knows October 9 matters. Your spirit is stirring, reaching, yearning. But your flesh, oh, your flesh is so tired. Your flesh wants to give up, shut down, check out. Your flesh is saying, just rest, just coast, just let it go. But I'm here to tell you, this is not the time to rest. This is the time to roar. You know what the enemy fears most about you? It's not your strength. You don't have much strength left, and he knows it. It's not your resources. Your bank account is probably crying, and he sees it. It's not your energy. You can barely make it through the day without a nap. What terrifies him is your testimony, your survival. The fact that after everything he's thrown at you, after the deaths, the diseases, the disappointments, the decades of delay, you're still here, still breathing, still believing. still standing. Job 19:25 says, I know that my Redeemer lives, and that in the end he will stand on the earth. Job said this when he had lost everything. His children, his wealth, his health, his dignity, even his wife told him to curse God and die. But Job said, I know, not I hope, not I wish. I know. That's what the enemy can't stand. Your knowing, your certainty in the dark, your faith that refuses to die even when everything around you is dead. And so he attacks. He sends the strange sickness, the one that makes you too weak to pray. He sends the financial crisis, the one that makes you too worried to worship. He sends the loneliness, the one that makes you question if God even remembers your name. But hear me clearly. Every attack is confirmation. Every battle is proof. The devil doesn't waste ammunition on empty threats. He only fights what frightens him. And you, beloved, you terrify him. Because you're still here. Because October 9 is coming. Because your dawn is breaking, whether he likes it or not. So right now, I need you to do something. I need you to comment below. Don't think, just type, I will not sleep through my dawn. Let hell hear it. Let heaven record it. Let your own spirit remember it. Because what's coming next will reveal exactly what happens when you refuse to quit at the edge of promise. And it's going to change everything you thought you knew about timing, about destiny, about what God can do in a single day. Listen to me, chosen one. There's something happening in the unseen realm right now that your natural eyes cannot perceive. But your spirit, oh, your spirit, it's trembling because it knows. Heaven keeps a calendar, not like the one hanging on your kitchen wall with doctor's appointments and grandchildren's birthdays scribbled in fading ink. No, heaven's calendar is written in fire, sealed in blood, and every date carries the weight of eternity. And October 9 is burning. You see, there are dates that pass, and then there are dates that collide. October 9 is not passing. It's colliding with your destiny at a velocity that will either shatter your chains or seal your cage forever. This is not poetry. This is prophecy. Ecclesiastes 3:1 declares, to everything there is a season, and a time to every purpose under heaven. But here's what most people miss. There's a difference between a time and the time. You've had many times, many seasons, many moments when you felt something stir. But October 9, this is the time. The appointed hour when heaven's clock and your heartbeat sync for the first and possibly last time in your life. October 9 is not later. October 9 is not someday. October 9 is now. Let me show you something that's going to wreck every excuse you've been clinging to. In the book of Esther, there's a moment, a hinge moment when Mordecai looks at his niece, now a queen, and speaks words that should haunt every chosen one who thinks they can afford to wait. Who knows but that you have come to your royal position for such a time as this? Esther 4:14, for such a time as this. Not for such a time as later, not for such a time as when you feel ready, for such a time as this. Esther had one window, one moment when her identity, her position, and heaven's purpose aligned. If she missed it, an entire nation would be slaughtered. The weight of that decision wasn't on her shoulders for her comfort. It was there because God trusted her with the lives of thousands. And you, God has trusted you with something equally precious. Your bloodline, your legacy, the prayers your mother prayed, the destiny your father never walked into, the breakthrough your children are waiting to inherit. All of it hinges on October 9. October 9 is not later. October 9 is not someday. October 9 is now. Here's what you need to understand about divine timing. It doesn't negotiate. It doesn't reschedule. It doesn't send reminder emails. When God sets a date, it's absolute. Think about Noah. Genesis 7:4 says, 7 days from now I will send rain on the earth for 40 days and 40 nights. 7 days, not 8, not 6, 7. And when day 7 arrived, the floods came whether people were ready or not. Think about the Israelites at Jericho. They marched for 6 days in silence. 6 days of looking foolish. 6 days of people mocking them. But on day 7, Joshua 6:20, the people shouted, and the trumpet sounded. And when the people heard the sound of the trumpet, the people shouted with a great shout, and the wall fell down flat. Day 7, not day 8, not whenever they felt like it. Day 7 was the appointed time, and everything collapsed on schedule. You've been circling your Jericho for years, haven't you? Decades, maybe. You've been marching around your financial walls, your health walls, your loneliness walls, your purposeless walls. But October 9 is your 7th day. This is when the shout is no longer optional, it's mandatory. This is when silence ends and the walls fall. October 9 is not later. October 9 is not someday. October 9 is now. I want you to close your eyes for just a moment and imagine this with me. Picture heaven's throne room. There's a scroll, ancient, massive, glowing with light that would blind you if you saw it with natural eyes. On that scroll are names. Not everyone's name, just the names of those marked for October 9. And beside each name, written in gold that pulses like a heartbeat, is a single date, October 9. Angels are watching that scroll. They've been watching it for years. They've seen you stumble. They've seen you doubt. They've seen you almost give up. But they've also seen your name glowing brighter with every tear you've cried, every prayer you've whispered, every morning you got up when staying down would have been easier. Your name is on that scroll, beloved. And October 9 is when heaven says, enough waiting, it's time. But here's the terror and the beauty wrapped into one truth. That scroll doesn't force you. It invites you. You can walk away. You can ignore it. You can let October 9 pass like every other day. But if you do, your name doesn't just fade, it transfers. It moves from the fulfilled column to the forfeited column. And once it's in that column, there's no bringing it back. Hebrews 3:15 warns, today, if you hear his voice, do not harden your hearts. Today, not tomorrow. Not next week, today, because there are moments when God speaks, and if you miss them, the silence that follows isn't peaceful, it's permanent. October 9 is not later. October 9 is not someday. October 9 is now. You know what breaks my heart? I meet people in their 70s, 80s, 90s who whisper to me, I think I missed my moment. And every time I hear that, something in me wants to scream, then don't miss another one, because October 9 is your redemption date. It's the day God is giving you to recover every lost season, every stolen blessing, every delayed promise. This is not the end of your story, it's the end of delay. October 9 is when later becomes now. It's when someday becomes today. It's when the invisible becomes visible. It's when what you've been believing for in secret gets announced in public. In Habakkuk 2-3, God says, for the vision is yet for an appointed time, but at the end it will speak, and it will not lie. Though it tarries, wait for it, because it will surely come. It will not tarry. You see that? It will surely come. Not maybe, not possibly, surely. And October 9 is the surely manifesting in your life. The trumpet is sounding. Can you hear it? Not with your ears, with your spirit. Heaven's alarm clock is going off, and it's set for October 9. The question is, will you hit snooze, or will you wake up? If you know, and I mean know, in the deepest part of your soul that you've been waiting decades for this shift, if you feel that tremor in your chest that says this is real, then stop hiding. Type it right now. Now is my time. Don't think about it. Don't analyze it. Declare it. Because when you speak it, you activate it. October 9 is not later. October 9 is not someday. October 9 is now. And now that you understand the weight of this date, now that you've seen your name on heaven's scroll, you need to know what happens if you ignore it. Because what I'm about to tell you next will either terrify you into action or confirm that you were never serious about your destiny to begin with. Listen to me, beloved. I need to tell you something that's going to crack open every wound you thought had healed, every scar you thought you'd hidden, every shame you buried so deep you convinced yourself it was gone. You're sitting there right now, maybe 73, maybe 82, and you know the truth, don't you? You know that the battles you fought weren't just your battles. The addictions that chased you, the rage that erupted without warning, the depression that sat on your chest like a stone, you didn't create those. You inherited them. Your father drank himself numb every night, didn't he? And his father before him. Your mother carried anxiety like a second skin, and her mother died young from a broken heart that medicine couldn't name. The poverty wasn't just bad luck. The divorce wasn't just incompatibility. The sickness that stalked your family like a predator, it had a name, it had a pattern, it had roots. Generational curses aren't fairy tales, chosen one. They're spiritual DNA. They're chains forged in the decisions of ancestors you never met, and they've been wrapped around your bloodline for decades, maybe centuries. But here's what's going to wreck you today. Here's what's going to make you weep and then roar. October 9 is the day those chains snap. Not for you alone. For everyone who shares your blood. Your children who struggle with the same demons you battled. Your grandchildren who carry the same heaviness in their chest that you've carried since you were 12 years old. The great-grandchildren not yet born who were destined to inherit the same curse. It stops. On October 9. With you. You want to know why you've survived everything that should have killed you? Why you didn't die in that car accident in '73? Why the cancer didn't take you in '89? Why you're still breathing when everyone else from your generation is 6 feet under? Because you're the chain breaker. You're the generational interrupter. You're the one God kept alive specifically for October 9. Joel 2:25 says, I will restore to you the years that the swarming locust has eaten. Do you hear that? The years the locust has eaten. Not just your years, your father's wasted years, your grandfather's stolen decades, your mother's dreams that died in her throat. God is restoring all of it through you on October 9. Think about a tree, a massive oak tree with roots that go down 30-40 feet into the earth. For generations, those roots have been wrapped around stone-buried trauma, unspoken abuse, silent rage. The tree grows, but it's twisted, deformed. Every branch that sprouts carries the deformity of those imprisoned roots. That's your family tree, beloved. But on October 9, something shifts in the spiritual realm. Those roots don't just break free, they explode through the stone. And when they do, every branch straightens. Every leaf breathes. Every generation that comes after you grows in freedom you never had. Your pain was never random. Your suffering was never meaningless. It was prophetic. You were the sacrifice that purchased freedom for your grandchildren. You were the one who had to feel the full weight of the curse so it could be broken in your lifetime. You endured hell so they could inherit heaven. Psalm 78:4 declares, We will tell the next generation the praiseworthy deeds of the Lord, His power, and the wonders He has done. You're not just surviving, chosen one. You're creating testimony. You're writing the story. Your great-great-grandchildren will tell their children about the day everything changed. About the grandmother who said, enough. About the grandfather who stood up at 86 years old and declared, this ends with me. I know what you're thinking right now. You're thinking, but I'm too old. The damage is done. My kids are already grown. My grandkids are already struggling. Stop. Stop right there. You think Caleb was young when he said, give me this mountain. He was 85 years old. 85. While everyone else was settling into their rocking chairs, waiting to die, Caleb was claiming territory. He was conquering giants. He was taking back what the enemy stole. That's you on October 9. Your daughter who can't keep a marriage that pattern breaks. Your son who self-medicates to survive that addiction loses its grip. Your granddaughter who cuts herself in the bathroom at 2 a.m. because she can't silence the voices. Those voices go silent forever. Not because you're perfect, not because you finally figured it all out, but because on October 9 you stand in the gap. You become the firewall between the past and the future. You become the generation that says, the curse stops here. The blessing starts now. Can you feel it? that trembling in your chest, that's not anxiety, beloved. That's recognition. Your spirit knows what I'm saying is true. Your soul remembers the covenant God made with you before you were born. Here's the part that's going to break you wide open. Somewhere right now, your grandchild is sitting in their room, feeling the exact same hopelessness you felt at their age. The same worthlessness, the same darkness. They don't know why. They just know something's wrong. Something's been wrong their whole life. And they're one bad decision away from continuing the cycle. One moment of weakness away from passing the curse to their children. Unless you act, unless you stand, unless you step into October 9 and declare with the full authority of someone who's survived hell, it ends with me, it begins with them. Say it, right now. Don't wait, don't analyze. Say it out loud wherever you are. It ends with me, it begins with them. Say it again. Louder. It ends with me, it begins with them. You feel that? That weight lifting? That's not metaphor. That's spiritual atmosphere shifting. That's generations being rewritten in real time. That's the sound of chains hitting the floor. October 9 isn't just your breakthrough day. It's your bloodline's emancipation day. But here's the question that will determine everything. Here's the question that separates those who read about breakthrough from those who walk in it. Will you show up? Will you stand in the gap? Will you become the hinge point between curse and blessing? Because what happens on October 9 doesn't just affect you. It rewrites history backward and forward. It heals what was. It protects what's coming. Your name will be whispered with reverence by descendants you'll never meet. That's the one, they'll say. That's the one who broke the chains. That's the one who set us free. But only if you don't miss it. You know what breaks my heart? It's watching 70-year-old warriors, 80-year-old prophets, 90-year-old kings and queens walking around believing they've been dismissed. Put on the shelf. Written off by a world that worships youth and forgets that God saves his finest wine for last. But let me tell you something that's going to shatter that lie into a million pieces. You weren't dismissed, beloved. You were hidden. There's a monumental difference between being forgotten and being protected. Between being overlooked and being reserved. Between being passed over and being preserved for the exact moment when heaven needs to make an undeniable statement. Think about a diamond. Right now, beneath your feet, miles under the Earth's surface, there are diamonds forming. Nobody sees them. Nobody celebrates them. Nobody even knows they exist. They're under crushing pressure, extreme heat, surrounded by darkness. And to the untrained eye, they look like nothing. Just carbon, just rock, just ordinary. But that pressure, that darkness, that time in the hidden place, that's not punishment, that's transformation. That's the very process that turns common carbon into something so valuable, so brilliant, so indestructible that kings fight wars over it. You've been under pressure, haven't you? The pressure of age in a youth-obsessed culture. The pressure of being invisible when you used to turn heads. The pressure of feeling irrelevant when you carry more wisdom in your pinky finger than most people will accumulate in a lifetime. That pressure wasn't breaking you. It was making you priceless. Let me take you deeper. Think about Noah's Ark. For 120 years, Noah built that ark while the world mocked him. 120 years of hammer strikes, of neighbors laughing, of being called crazy. And when it was finished, what happened? Nothing. The ark just sat there, hidden, waiting, seemingly pointless. But then the floodwaters came. And suddenly, what looked like foolishness became the only salvation on earth. What was hidden became the most important structure in human history. What was mocked became the vessel that carried the future of all mankind. You are that ark. You've been building, preparing, enduring while the world mocked or ignored you. But October 9 is when the floodwaters of divine purpose rise, and suddenly everyone will understand why you were built the way you were built, why you survived, what you survived, why you carry what you carry. Look at Joseph. Genesis 41. One day he's in prison, forgotten, rotting in an Egyptian dungeon for crimes he didn't commit. His brothers betrayed him. His boss's wife lied about him. For years, he sat in that cell wondering if God had forgotten his name. The dreams he had as a boy seemed like cruel jokes. The promises felt like poison. But then one single morning, Pharaoh has a dream. And in less than 24 hours, Joseph goes from prisoner to prime minister, from dungeon to palace, from forgotten to the second most powerful man in the known world. Not in years, not in months, in hours. Do you understand what I'm telling you? Your October 9 could be your Genesis 41 moment. The day when everything that made no sense suddenly makes perfect sense. When every closed door, every betrayal, every year of waiting clicks into place like the final piece of a puzzle you thought was missing forever. But here's where it gets even more powerful. Let me tell you about Anna. Luke chapter 2, verses 36 through 38. This woman was 84 years old. 84. She'd been widowed after only 7 years of marriage. She spent the next 77 years in the temple, praying, fasting, worshipping. Most people would look at her and think, what a waste, all those years. She could have remarried, had a family, built a life. But God was hiding her for revelation. Because when Mary and Joseph brought baby Jesus to the temple, who was the first woman to prophesy over the Messiah? Not a young prophetess with her whole life ahead of her. Not someone famous or connected or influential. It was Anna, 84-year-old Anna, who'd been faithful in the hidden place, suddenly became the voice that announced salvation to Jerusalem. Your age is not your disqualification. Your age is your credential. Every year you've lived, every battle you've survived, every tear you've cried has been refining you, preparing you, positioning you for the moment when God pulls back the curtain and says, now, show them what I've been building in secret. October 9 is that curtain call. It's the unveiling, not for your glory, for God's story. Because when he uses someone the world wrote off, when he elevates someone society dismissed, when he vindicates someone who stayed faithful in the hidden place, it's not just your testimony, it's his reputation on display. Here's what's about to happen, and I need you to feel the weight of this. On October 9, what has been hidden becomes undeniable. You won't have to explain yourself. You won't have to defend your story. You won't have to convince anyone that God is real or that his timing is perfect. The evidence will speak louder than words ever could. Doors will open that you didn't knock on. Opportunities will present themselves that you didn't apply for. People will seek you out for the wisdom you carry. Favor will follow you like a shadow. And everyone who counted you out, everyone who dismissed you, everyone who thought your best days were behind you, will stand there speechless, watching God make a public spectacle of his faithfulness through your life. But you have to believe it before you see it. You have to speak it before it manifests. Right now, I need you to do something that might feel uncomfortable. I need you to write in the comments, I will be unveiled. Not because you're prideful, not because you want attention, but because you're agreeing with what heaven has already declared over you. Write it, seal it, make it a covenant between you and the God who has been hiding you for this exact moment. Because October 9 isn't just another day, it's the day the hidden becomes seen, the day the forgotten becomes remembered, the day the dismissed becomes undeniable. But here's the question that should keep you awake tonight. What happens if you're so convinced you're dismissed that you miss your own unveiling? Beloved, as we come to the close of this sacred moment together, I need you to hold these truths in your heart like precious stones. Remember this. October 9 is not just another date on your calendar. It is your divine appointment with destiny. It is the day when everything you've endured, every tear you've shed, every prayer you've whispered into the darkness will converge into a moment of undeniable manifestation. You were not dismissed by God. You were hidden for revelation. Your age is not your limitation, it is your qualification. And what has been concealed in the secret place is about to be unveiled with such power that no one will be able to deny what God has done. But I need you to understand something deeper than knowledge, something that settles in your bones and brings peace to your restless spirit. You are not walking this road alone. Even when it feels like you're the only one still believing, still praying, still standing, the Creator of the universe is working behind the scenes on your behalf. He hasn't forgotten your address. He hasn't lost your file. He hasn't moved on to younger, shinier vessels. He's been orchestrating every detail, positioning every piece, preparing every door for the exact moment when you step into October 9. And beyond God's presence, you have something beautiful right here, right now. Look around these comments. Feel these spirits connecting. See these hearts resonating. You've found your tribe, chosen one. This isn't just a YouTube channel. This is a sanctuary for souls who understand what it means to wait in faith, to endure in silence, to believe when belief costs everything. We are here. We see you. We understand you. And we will stand with you in prayer. So let me ask you this final question, and let it echo in the chambers of your heart. What will you do with October 9? Will you treat it like just another Thursday? Or will you step into it with the full weight of knowing that heaven has marked this day specifically for you? Before I release you, I want you to do something. Drop a comment below and tell us what you're believing God for on October 9. Share what's stirring in your spirit. Ask us to pray with you. And if this message has touched the deepest places of your soul, share this video with someone who needs to hear it. There's someone in your life right now, a friend, a family member, maybe someone you haven't spoken to in years, who is sitting in their own hidden place, wondering if God has forgotten them. Be the vessel that carries this hope to them. Remind them that they are not alone, and that October 9 is waiting for them too. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to this channel. Hit that notification bell. Because this isn't just content, this is a movement of awakening for God's chosen ones who refuse to believe their story is over. Thank you for staying with me through this entire journey. Thank you for opening your heart, for letting these words penetrate the sacred chambers of your soul. Thank you for being brave enough to believe that maybe, just maybe, your greatest chapter is still ahead of you. Now, join me. Wherever you are sitting in your living room, lying in your bed, parked in your car, close your eyes and let me pray over you. Let me speak life, hope, and divine activation over your October 9. A prayer of divine activation. Heavenly Father, Creator of time and eternity, the Ancient of Days who numbers every hair on our heads and collects every tear in your bottle, I come before you now carrying every precious soul who has watched this message. Lord, they've been faithful when faith was hard. They've believed when belief cost them everything. They've endured seasons that would have broken lesser spirits. And now, Father, I'm asking you no. I'm declaring over their lives that October 9 will be the day when heaven invades earth on their behalf. Place your hand upon their shoulders right now. Let them feel your presence. Let them know, beyond any shadow of doubt, that they are loved, they are seen, they are remembered. Silence every voice of condemnation. Silence every whisper of doubt. Silence every lie that says their time has passed. Open the doors that no man can shut. Close the doors that lead to destruction. Give them divine appointments, supernatural connections, miraculous provisions that will leave them speechless with gratitude. Let October 9 mark them with such favor that people will wonder what happened, and they'll simply point to you. For those carrying sickness, release your healing power. For those buried in debt, unleash your supernatural provision. For those bearing loneliness, send divine relationships that reflect your heart. For those questioning their purpose, reveal with clarity what you've been preparing them for all along. Break generational curses. Restore generational blessings. Let their October 9 become a turning point, not just for them, but for every generation that follows. And Father, give them peace, the kind of peace that makes no logical sense, the peace that guards their hearts and minds in Christ Jesus, the peace that whispers, "It's going to be okay. He's got you. You're not alone." We seal this prayer. We seal October 9. We seal their destiny in the mighty, matchless, all-powerful name of Jesus Christ, who sits at your right hand, interceding for us even now. Amen and amen. Now go, beloved. Walk into October 9 with your head held high, your heart full of faith, and your spirit aligned with heaven's decree. You are chosen. You are loved. You are not alone. And your story, it's far from over.